This video is part number 1B. It's really a mental authority addendum. 1A is our earlier video on mental authority submitted for your approval via the link above. This is a supplemental for your consideration. Herein I go further in directions I had nary opened a door to show you a glimpse. Fewer moments leading deeper in. So take a visit with me, if you will, if it's correct for you, inside the mentalist of the mental realms. If you don't have mental authority, but you do have an undefined or open G center, this video might have something for you too, particularly when I talk about environment. Hearing the truth in one's own voice, the frequency of life force versus the frequency of conditioning or something that's not true for you, after it leaves your body, is what is being keyed in on. What is true for me and what is not that. And what is true will hold a different frequency or pitch or weight energetically that over time you will be able to hear, and others can also hear when they know what they're listening for, the quality of your verbal frequency. And these others that are listening to you are not just anyone. Rather, this process requires speaking with people whose energy and aura mechanics are more suitable to you, those who have a calming influence. And these people listening to you should also be trained or requested to not try to influence you or advise you, only act as sounding boards during your decision-making process, which is not something everyone has the temperament for. So the selection process of who the right sounding board is not necessarily an easy or an immediate one. It's much more than this, though. It's much more complex. So much like reflectors, due to your incredible openness, all of your undefined and open centers, throughout a 28-day lunar cycle, various gates within your chart that are normally dormant will become activated. And when they do, they augment your inner experience. And they affect such things as your responses to things, your feelings, urges and pressures you experience, your confidence in yourself, your willpower, other ego stuff, your sense of who you are, the life direction you resonate to, your vocational choices, your awareness of things and your fear of certain things, your need for attention, your energy level, your need for stability or variety, your need to connect to others or reject them, and more. And due to this, mental projectors such as yourself can get a strong pull towards or a strong aversion to certain decisions in the moment because of how strongly you're sense feeling and identifying with the various augmented sensibilities that are going on inside you. That consideration you are giving to whatever it is you're trying to make a decision about on a given day with certain gates that have been activated can prompt you to make hasty, incorrect decisions, only to find that when different gates are activated days later or in others' presence, you have a different experience and may go back to being unsure or perhaps even having an opposing sensibility. For you, big decisions take time, and you have a difficult way you have to make those decisions correctly. If you're forced to make quick ones, then the whatever it is or whoever it is pushing you to make a quick decision is not correct for you. And that can be very sad and disappointing, particularly if you're heavily identified with what or who you're considering. So you need to embrace this limitation if you want to make decisions you don't regret, that lead you to success and a greater sense of inner calm. However, it all starts with environment. That is number one for you. Even before strategy and authority, environment. And mental projectors have a very sharp and attuned sense of their environment. Bad environments will bring you bad things to choose from that lead to bad life decisions and regrettable, painful memories. Bad environments, for you, should be an immediate no. Not to be overly dramatic, but it may be the only conscious warning you receive before you become something wrong and unlucky, because it's the first domino to fall. The second consideration, do people want what you have to bring to the table and what you have to offer? Are your particular insights and perspectives seen, wanted, appreciated, or are they just tolerated or ignored? And of course, you're only going to get a good read on that if you don't initiate with your insights and offerings and wait for the invitation. But if those invitations ain't coming even when you're waiting, if no one wants or digs your unique insights, then you are likely in the wrong neck of the woods. So you need to check in. Does your input even matter where you are? Do people want to hear from you? Generally speaking, of course, because no one wants to hear from anyone nonstop or from someone who hogs the spotlight. So you can be in the right place, but you just get in your own way of being recognized by constantly talking or initiating with your advice and not give people a chance to notice you on their own, not give your aura the opportunity to be alluring. So you do need to make sure you're doing your part and following proper projector protocol before you negatively assess a particular in-group or network or hangout spot. But yeah, if you are following correct protocol and you're not getting any of that, then that's the writing on the wall. The third consideration is finding those friends who resonate in a healthy way, or even paid listeners who will let you verbally process your experience without offering their own insights and advice, no matter how inspiring or good their intentions are. And of course, stay vigilant always with your environment, and that includes where you're having your decision chat sessions. And just know that you're not going to figure it out in one chat session, unless maybe you have that chat session after 28 days of journaling about the thing. You know, one chat session is 1 out of 28 days of a lunar cycle, and you may feel differently when you process a few days later and other gates are activated. In fact, you should sort of count on that. Your aim here is to discern your cumulative sense of the thing, opportunity, or person you're considering after that 28-day period. Does the person, thing, or opportunity give you a sense of leading to your success and that sense of inner calm? If so, that may be the correct decision for you for this next period of your life, however long that is. And journaling is also a great way to memorialize your experience on a particular day of that 28-day cycle. Some of your gates being activated are conscious aspects that you recognize in yourself, and others will be totally under the radar. Or there might be a mixture of the two, as in the case you see here, where there's red and black going on. That means that there are both conscious and unconscious elements. So it's exceedingly helpful to see what is being activated inside you on a particular day so you can note its contribution to your experience. This can help shed light on why you're experiencing a different perspective of what you're looking at and reacting to the choices in front of you in a different way. So you can begin to correlate your experience with what's being awakened from dormancy inside you. As an alternative to writing in a journal, it may be helpful to have a little recorder you can talk into each day. In that 28-day period, you're trying to make a big decision. So you can hear your own voice and note the differences in how you're sense feeling each day about what it is or who it is you're deciding upon. The reason why I like recording better than journaling, if you have to choose between the two, is that hearing your own voice, and I'm sure you've had this experience, when you hear your own voice in certain times, it sounds like, cringe, like you can't listen to it. It has a frequency that you don't like hearing yourself. Other times, it may not bother you as much, particularly when you're speaking your truth. And that is how you're going to start recognizing, I believe, what is true for you and what isn't when you're talking about it, because you won't cringe. So I think that's something to actually key in on. Again, how it works for you is going to be unpredictable. It's going to be per you, but it's going to be in that energy category. Having mental authority also means that you have a strong need to compartmentalize visualize the various impressions that you absorb from the world around you, because it can be a barrage of information that's difficult to process in real time, certainly before you get the hang of what's going on and be able to witness it in your body without reacting to it. As such, another reason why your inner authority takes more time than others is that you may quickly become oversaturated, overwhelmed, overstimulated, or even frustrated by all of this incoming data or energy being thrown at you, and either make too quick a decision or experience decision paralysis. Is that you need to be able to break down your decisions into manageable and digestible parts first, and just consider the aspects you're looking at on that particular day of the 28-day period. After that approximate 28-day period, you collect all of your impressions using the methods and protocols I described and arrive at that cumulative yes or no or maybe, which would be a no for now. This is a slow and methodical process if you want a good result. It doesn't have to be a perfect yes. What you're going to have is clarity of what is a majority good decision for you or not. And it's of course helpful to understand some of your underlying motivations, hang-ups, and tendencies, aka ways in which your mind tends to derail you or speak to you, so they don't inappropriately taint your process or your decision-making process. I have to say, this is a really mysterious inner authority. You're only among 3.6% of the population on the planet, so we're talking rare. And because it's such a rare and mysterious inner authority, and I'm just describing how it generally works, so don't mistake what I'm saying for your truth or exactly how it's going to work for you. As the saying goes, a finger pointing at the moon is not the moon. You have to discover how it works for yourself. And better self-knowledge prevents you from being hijacked by others' energies. And as a mental projector, you are exceedingly easy to hijack if you're not aware of how you operate. Awareness allows you to see the energy without necessarily being the energy, thinking it's yours and not just something you picked up like a candy bar off the floor. I also want to talk to you about you being recognized for you, meaning what actually are they or should they be inviting? Well, it's going to be something here in this mix of 6. These 6 channels. You may only have one of them, you may have any number of them, more than one. Your particular flavor of insight. Insight that's an amalgam of the different energies that make up your mental realm. Rarely will you be working this energy in a 9-to-5 job setting with this makeup. Having an undefined sacral's limited energy. This is more on the find a way to dictate your own hours tip. To find something that truly feels good to you per your strategy and particular mental authority protocols, and learn enough about it, hone your craft to the degree that you can work part-time for full-time pay. You know, as a consultant for something, a coach, anything in which you're in control of your hours, favoring fewer. When you're not invited, those with undefined or open head and ajnas that enter your aura are open to the inspiration you bring. You won't attribute it to you necessarily, and they can't block it. But that also includes mental pressure, including confusion and uncertainty. Whatever mental pressures you personally may be going through get absorbed and amplified by them, which can be a headache. So whatever you're working through can be contagious of sorts and not pleasant to experience. So you create the environment for inspiration and mental pressure, even when you're not recognized or getting credit for this. And you are a being who's fueled by recognition. So there can be misery and melancholy without it, and you can't force it. You also have a strong sense of environment. So perhaps feng shui training, because these sensibilities you have as someone who can sense the presence of stuck, stagnant, or unresolved energies in the other or in the environment can really serve you as a great career choice that plays to your strengths. In addition to Reiki, either of these may be incredibly appropriate for you, or something along these lines with energy healing or being utilized for your sensitivity to environment based on your skill set and unique sensitivities. Interior design, architecture, these types of things. Create a career that utilizes this life force that you have. Another thing, those with defined head and ajnas are typically immune to others' thoughts and inspirations. So there's a part of you that's deaf to what I just said, or unable to get too interested in what I said. It's hard for other people's concepts to land in a permanently that's right for me place. You need to somehow inspire yourself. It comes from inside for you. This prevents you from being influenced in how you process things mentally. You're well influenced elsewhere, but not here. As far as other people's inspiring thoughts or pressures on you to think a certain way goes, it's not always helpful in the early stages of you not knowing what to do and getting your shit together. When you're stuck, there are going to be a lot of people who may want to offer you advice, and a lot of that advice might be decent, but no one can really rescue you from that. You have to rescue yourself. Even when the ideas are brilliant and you recognize you need support for whatever's going on, you don't have ears for that. You're deaf to their advice in a lot of ways, because you either have to forget that you heard it and then over time it just sinks in and you think it's your idea, or you have to modify it to make it your own. And that either has to be you hear a great idea and you're like, that's a great idea, but I got to make it my own, and you make it your own, or you have to forget the idea and then, oh yeah, that was someone else's idea. But the odds are slim that you're going to be able to hear somebody else's idea and be able to run with it. As is, that is. I mean, there's just some built-in aversion. It's involuntary, so you sort of have to work with it. When you're stuck and unable to come up with the answer yourself, you need to take someone else's good ideas and modify them to make them your own. And you can do that. And that's what I'm asking you to actually do here. My suggestion is that you really deeply listen to what I just said and then mutate what I said to make it your own version. Just keep in mind, you're here to be recognized for the life force that you bring, which are your channels, because they are unaffected by the outside world. They're purely your signal, unlike everything else that's going on inside you, which involves other people's absorbed and amplified stuff. Their energy that you're interpreting as your own. It's so vital for someone as open as yourself to be able to shed off that which you've absorbed from others. Start discharging all of that picked up energetic ectoplasm from those around you. Or you risk being lost in the chaos of other people. The way you discharge is by sleeping alone and at least 20 feet from others, including walls. You can be conditioned by someone on the other side of the wall. So you really should eke out the right place to lay your head, the right environment. And life will feel calmer and more successful. Consider trying it. What's the worst thing that could happen? And what's the best thing that could happen? It may be easier to imagine that you're wearing a jacket with lots of buttons, and from time to time some of these buttons power on and can do stuff. But some of the buttons are on your back, so you don't see when these buttons get powered up, and also don't sense that the buttons have powered up, but powered up they have. And if they're the buttons that you can see, then this on again, off again aspect of your personality gets activated and added to the mix, and that may include particular talents and skills you have. You never want to count on something about you that's intermittent. And by count on, I mean rely upon, trust, expect to be able to deliver, like the buttons that turn on and turn off. Some you're aware are turning on and turning off. Some are on your back, they turn on and turn off, you're not aware of. You don't want to count on any of those buttons. And those buttons are the dormant gates in you. And many of these are responsible for your own misunderstandings, particularly when these gates are unconscious, red, under the radar, a button on your back. Now, it's also true that you're always sensitive to your surroundings and the people around you, so you can rely on that sensitivity. I'm more referring to your skill set and not relying on abilities or awarenesses that you have that are tied to your dormant gates, which are not always active. You only want to count on your channels, which is your life force, transmitting your solid signal, your mental source material, healthy or unhealthy, 24/7, stable as the day is long. That's what you are here to bring. That's what people get from you. But they also get the amplifications and augmentations of what you're absorbing from them, which can help facilitate an uncomfortable environment, an unpleasant and uncomfortable distorted frequency. Sometimes that just means that your frequency is minorly annoying and leads to you being ignored or unseen, and other times may leave a more unpleasant stamp on things, and perhaps even leave a mark. So you need to be choosy, dare I say snobbishly picky, perhaps more choosy than others, both physically and metaphysically. Just because you might have the unconscious gravitation, aka don't just unconsciously give in to your impulses just because the synapse fires. Not everyone is worthwhile for you to get to know on that level and end up uncomfortably connected to, especially if they don't meet the criteria of where did I meet this person? What was the environment? Are they bringing me to good environments? That's another thing. Did he or she, whoever the person is, did they bring you to a good environment? If they bring you to good environments, then that's a good indication. If you met them in a good environment and they bring you to good environments, that is an indication that they're good for you. Until they're not, obviously. What was the restaurant like that they took you to? Or the coffee shop? Was it a bad scene? I mean, on a first meeting, that would be a great indication. Wow, kind of like the frequency's off, right? Like if their frequency is inclined to somehow under the radar, the environments they bring you to happen to be pleasant environments, then that has a different quality than a person who brings you to poorly frequencied environments, right? These are things to pay attention to. Environment is such a big box for you to check. It figures so prominently in what your experience of life is going to be. It bleeds into everything. If you met them in a good environment, but you keep going to bad environments, they keep bringing you to environments that are not good for you, then that's an indication that maybe it's time to reevaluate, I would say. But if they're bringing you to good environments, then yeah, there's something there. Doesn't have to be something lifelong or even romantic for that matter. But as long as you're experiencing good environments with them, at least you've got that going for you. Because when that's not going for you, then, well, just imagine, environment is your whole deal. So it's like consideration numero uno. And if you can't get to just first base on that, then, everything else is going to go in that wobbly way. It doesn't mean there'll be a relationship. Could just mean, this is going to be a good boss. This is going to be a good friend. This is going to be a good acquaintance. This is going to be a good family member that I can communicate with. By no means am I saying, is this the only consideration of whether this person is good for you or not, but it's definitely something to be aware of in the relationship. Oh, this is someone who I need to worry about because they could bring me into an area that will condition me in the wrong way, and I'll be placed on that spectrum, on that continuum between wrong place, wrong time, wrong opportunity, wrong invitation, wrong connection, wrong experience. You get placed on that continuum in the wrong environment. So if you're attached to somebody who's bringing you to wrong environments, then, there's a lot to unpack there because it affects your life in very fundamental ways. Nice as they are, amazing as they are, you're placed in a sort of energetic jeopardy because of your openness. You're vulnerable. Places that are noticeably bad energy places for you, which would indicate they're not aligned to you. If they were aligned to you, then they just naturally wouldn't be inclined to bring you to places that hold bad energy for you. You know what I'm trying to say? And I don't want to overemphasize, people can end up in bad environments from time to time, and that's no one's doing necessarily. But if it's a regular thing, something to look at. Here's another aspect of that. Let's say you had an unconscious dormant gate 59. When that gate of intimacy gets activated by someone, you can misread a good environment a little bit. Like, because you're feeling that way, you assume it's the other person and they're more interesting and worthy of your time and attention than they are. Because that's powered on and they just happen to be in your company, you could misread the situation and assume one thing is because of another. But correlation does not equal causation. You know, if we're talking about the Three Little Pigs, your house is made of sticks. So you have to be careful. Don't live a windy life. And sometimes when your body is in a healthy, calm state, you may misunderstand that feeling as a lack of something, incorrectly perceiving this calm state as a bad thing, and unnecessarily stir the pot because it scratches some itch to feel something powerfully, potently, or feel something when you're not. And I'm asking you to reconsider what boring means for you. When we live out other people's energies and adopt them as our own, we live out a bastardization of their not self trajectory, and as a result end up seeing things we'd rather not. You know, don't beat yourself up about it. You're only responsible for what you know. And a lot of your experience is simply a superpower you're continually working to get more under wraps, with greater expanded awareness of how you as a being operate, and become much more aware of those times in which you're using someone else's energetic user's manual for your own life. Sometimes it's going to be correct for you to be conditioned that way, an augmented version of their direction. But that person and direction and other appropriate conditioning, things you're here to be, see, and feel, will be brought to you via your strategy and authority and in the right environment. Let's talk about returning to a state of less mental turbulence or anguish. Something that will exceedingly help you in achieving that state of mental peace. You have to find another way to see that energy as it enters your body and turns you from off to on as something you need to do something about. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. Good luck and good journey.